What do we do now?
Count
No
down the
football?
days. Count down
Yeah.
the days till training camp. 161. So it sounds like
Okay.
a lot of days.
How do you do that? We don't know when it starts. Is
I
that a
just based
guess?
it on if it starts the same number of days before the opener as last year's training camp.
Okay. That's good. All right. Well, this is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We have a lot to get into today. We want to talk about the Super Bowl. It was a fun game, a fun night of watching football. We want to mention the guy in Indy for now. We'll go through that story. And then we have a bunch of stay or go. We're going to finish that series with defensive ends, tight ends, quarterbacks, and safeties. A lot of intrigue with some of those positions. So we'll get to that. This is kind of a slow period for us here. We want to mention it off the bat. We're going to do one pod this week, one pod next week before we get back into it. We just need a little break, and we're taking some time off, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, and by the time we come back, and we're not totally abandoning you guys. We'll be we'll do one this week, one next week, and by the time we get back, we'll only be a few weeks out of free agency, so we can kind of get that conversation going.
Yeah, there's really only 2 times a year where we can take any vacation days. It's like now and then in July. So we're both going to do that a little bit, but we'll still make sure we have a couple pods out.
And if something big happens, we will be here doing an emergency pod. Like if Doug Peterson names like an assistant special teams coach or a defensive quality control guy, emergency pod time.
I think my phone lost service just then when you said that, so I might not be able to do it. Super Bowl. That was a fun game. It was. I think I picked the Rams to win. Did you pick the Bengals to win?
I did.
Okay, you could have gone either way. It came down to the wire. It was a close game. Ultimately, I mean the gamble the Rams made paid off. They went all in on this year. They won a Super Bowl with it. What were some of your big takeaways from the game?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not a big Sean McVay fan. He's a really good coach. I think part of it stems from him getting Coach of the Year in 2017 over Doug. I don't know. It just kind of lingers with me a little bit. He's obviously a good coach. He did a great job, and they did a great job as an organization, kind of winning like the Eagles did in 17, just with a team based on veterans and free agent acquisitions as opposed to building through the draft mainly. It's an older team. So I'm not sure it's a roadmap to win, but there's different ways to skin a cat, and they earned it. Had a hell of a year. I have to say, the officiating did kind of dampen my enthusiasm for the game both ways. And I'm not, I don't think they were, favoring one team over the other. I mean, certainly the Logan Wilson penalty at that point in the game on a 3rd and 8 with a minute to go, you can't blow that call. You can't make that call. That was, I mean, and I know people are like, well, the pass, the face mask on the 75-yard touchdown. Well, that was a bad call too, but that doesn't mean like say, well, we're gonna do a makeup call like with 40 seconds left in a Super Bowl on a 3rd and 8, give this team a first down. Plus the fact that the Rams, both offensive tackles, clearly, I just watched the play like 20 times, clearly jumped off sides or false started. I'm sorry, on the play. It was just poorly officiated both ways. They stayed out of the way for a good chunk of the game. There weren't a lot of penalties, but man, they picked and chose their moments to really have way too big an impact on the football game as officials. And I'm like the last guy on earth. I never tweet about that. I'm not one of these, tweeting about ripping the refs all the time. Because I think for the most part, they do a really good job in every sport, especially baseball. I think baseball umpires are probably the best out of any of the sports, but I just thought it was a really poorly officiated game. They missed big calls. They called piddly calls at the wrong time. And it kind of ruined my enjoyment of it. I would have liked to seen the Bengals, get a little closer, maybe have a shot at a field goal to tie. But, man, Aaron Donald, what a beast. And, if he does retire, I mean, if he's not a unanimous Hall of Famer when his time is up, I don't know who ever would be, because he's just one of the best players I've ever seen. And I think it was Collinsworth made the observation. It was true that he just gets better and better as the game goes on. And that last series, I mean, Burrow didn't have a shot. And Donald and that was after the MVP voting had closed. So you can certainly make a good case for Cooper Kupp as the MVP, and I have no problem with that. I probably would have voted for Aaron Donald. But that front, I mean, we talked about it last week, Dave, that Rams front was ultimately just too much for the Bengals offensive line. And they hung in. Burrow's tough. He doesn't try to be Superman when he's under pressure. He just goes down and lives for another day. But ultimately, I thought the Rams D-line was the star of the game, I guess. Not just Aaron Donald, but the whole group.
Yeah, that was a lot. I want to go back to the officiating. It was honestly, it was two bad calls, and they were big calls, but it didn't. I get what you're saying. It didn't really ruin the game for me, especially because the Bengals got the ball back. Not that it excuses calling that penalty, but at least it wasn't like the game ended on it, So that made it feel a little better. The face mask was a bad missed one, but I don't know. I don't think it ruined my enjoyment level.
I don't think I said ruin. Did I say ruin? I said dampen, I believe.
Okay. Oh, it didn't dampen it didn't do anything to me enjoying that game. I still enjoyed that game. I had no effect on my enjoyment level.
I guess I enjoyed it. I don't know anybody who was rooting for the Rams. All my friends were rooting for the Bengals. Maybe that's because I have a lot of friends who live in Ohio, probably. But
well, that makes sense.
That does make sense.
I mean, there were more people in that stadium rooting for the Bengals. I can tell you that. Yeah, that's embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons I'm not a big Rams fan either, because I think they did St. Louis wrong, and I know there's still litigation. St. Louis is still suing that franchise, and they're probably going to win.
Hey, he stole this franchise.
Yeah. And I liked St. Louis. I like those small market teams, and LA's never really embraced the Rams. I thought it was funny when they introduced Dick Vermeil, and he gets a big hand because he led the Rams to a Super Bowl championship 23 years ago. They don't know who Dick Vermeil is in LA.
Yeah, it's always a weird thing when a team moves, though, because it's like,
yeah,
they have history in one place, but does that history carry over? Like, who gets that history? Like, think about like the Oilers, right? Like, who gets that history? Is it the Titans? Should the Texans take it over? Because it's a weird deal.
And then when the Browns moved, like the Browns moved to Baltimore, but they changed their name. I mean, well, Houston did, but then there was another Browns. So if there's a franchise record that was set before the first move, like, say, Bernie Kosar's passing yards in a game, is that a Ravens record? Is it a new Browns record? Like, I know initially,
I love that you want Bernie Kosar, not Jim Brown. I thought the Jim Brown was there on a tee for you.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to go Kosar just to be different. I couldn't think of Jim Brown's name, honestly, which is really sad. But no, I know the Ravens initially listed all the Browns records, but then there's a new Browns team. So, is Jim Brown's rushing record a franchise record for two different franchises? It's all weird. But anyway, I liked going to St. Louis. It was always fun going there. That 2001 NFC Championship game to this day remains the loudest football game I've ever been at. It was so loud, and I think they were pumping in crowd noise in that TWA dome, whatever they called it. It was so loud, we were like nauseous. We were like sick to our stomach because the noise, because the speakers were on the press box level, like at the top of the stadium. Have we ever at that stadium? The press box was really high.
No, never was there.
The noise, it was so loud. It was like being inside a jet engine. It was crazy. It was like the loudest concert you've ever been to, like times 10. Loudest concert I ever went to was Volcano Suns at Revival on which is now some restaurant in Philly, but it was, I don't know, I got a little off topic, but as I tend to do, but yeah, the crowd, the LA crowd is just kind of whatever. But the Rams had a great year. I mean, They lost 3 games in a row at one point, and they rebounded from that, which is not easy to do. So, they certainly earned it. And you got to be
Yeah.
happy with Stafford. I mean, the guy was in Siberia, for 13 years or whatever it was. So, I think the Rams got the better of that trade.
Yeah, and he's been good for a long time. He really didn't get the credit he deserved for a while. And that one pass he threw to Cooper Cup, that no look pass on the game winning drive, is unreal.
He was great on that drive. He really was. And I know the final stats. I mean, he threw 2 picks. One was off a guy's hands. I thought for them, I thought he played really well.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he missed Van Jefferson in the back of the end zone on that one. It was an easy shot, but overall he was really good. And go ahead. I know you were going to ask us, so go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is he in the Hall of Fame conversation now? When you look at all his numbers and they're not hollow numbers. I mean, the guy's all time, passing yards. I mean, in Detroit, he would throw for 4,500 yards every year. And he was like, well, they were always behind and they're always playing catch up. But now you look at the numbers and you had a Super Bowl, and it's not like he's going to retire. I mean, he's up in all-time everythings. I don't think of him as a Hall of Famer, but maybe it's time to kind of, rethink Matt Stafford's career. Guy goes to, 1 year with a different team and gets himself a Lombardi.
Yeah, it's a tough one because there are other guys in this era who are ahead of him. He has 1 Pro Bowl in his career. That's going to hurt him, whether or not it should. It is. It's going to hurt him. The numbers are going to be there. It's just, what do people think of the numbers? I think he has 9 4,000-yard seasons. I mean, Eagles have 1.
Who had that?
We'll get to him in a little bit. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it, but there are other guys, like a lot of guys in this era who are ahead of him, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that, like, Drew Brees is a no-brainer. He won 1. Aaron Rodgers is a no-brainer. He won 1. Obviously, their numbers are better and they did it longer. But if he plays another 5 years and throws for another 2,300 yards, 23,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, let's see if he does that.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like right now, I'd say no.
Yeah, I would agree, but he's in the conversation now.
Sure. I think that's fair. He played a good game, and Cooper Kupp is. You brought it up. So the way Super Bowl MVP voting works is really stupid, and they basically like pressure the voters. And there's not many voters. How many voters were in 52?
I thought there were maybe
7.
Yeah, maybe like it was single digits. I can't remember if it was 7 or 5. Or it's not many.
You were one of them, so we saw the process up close.
Yeah,
it's really awful. It's like they give, it's kind of so rudimentary. They give you like a piece of paper, right? And you write down the name.
Give it a piece of paper, and it has like the Super Bowl logo. I took a screenshot of it with the name Nick Foles on it just for posterity. But with 2 minutes left in the game, there was a PR guy from the NFL standing behind me saying, "Look, I need that. I need that now." I'm like, dude, the game is still going on. Because honestly, at that point, I mean, it's horrible to think about, but it could have been Brady. And I had Brady and Foles' name both written down. I was going to cross one out. I thought it'd be faster than writing the guy's name.
But it's crazy to collect them before the game's over, because that came up last night, obviously, because Cooper Kupp was great, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but if you watch the end of that game, it might have swung people to Aaron Donald, who I'm with you. I probably would have picked Aaron Donald. He had the 2 biggest plays of the game on the last 2 plays of he's the MVP. It doesn't make sense. And how can they not, it's the NFL. They have unlimited resources. They can't just have that PR guy up there, run around, collect them, say 5-4, Aaron Donald, call down to how hard would that be?
Or how about this? How about they have all this technology and virtual this and virtual that, and you still have a piece of paper. How about the voters are online? They're on a screen and they just either click a name and hit enter and it goes down. I mean, there's got to be.
That'd be a better way. It's so important. This is legacy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, not
Yeah,
that
and
Aaron Donald needs it, but like,
that's true.
the hell?
That's true. I mean, when you're looking at, when you're looking at somebody's career, Super Bowl MVP is, that's as big as it gets, and
Yeah.
they're doing it with 2 minutes left in the game. It's insane, and I'm glad. I would have voted for Nick either way, but I mean, I wasn't going to change my vote. But obviously if the Patriots won, I would have changed my vote. But um, I don't know if it would have been like, I guess you could have considered BG at that point, but that was before the 2 minute warning. But
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have. It
and I
didn't.
wouldn't
But
have.
this was
It's an awful
yeah.
system. And I'm sitting there I'm also trying to write my 10 observations. And this dude is like pestering me for my ballot. And I'm like, it was just a little, and he's standing right behind me. And then as soon as that pass went, as soon as the Hail Mary hit the ground, I crossed out Brady's name and handed him the thing. But it was, yeah, it's not ideal. They got to come up with a better system, because you're right. I think at least one voter already said that they would have changed their vote to Aaron Donald. But look, the bottom line is, I covered Reggie White, and this guy he impacts the game just as much. He's legitimately one of the greatest defensive players in the history of the game. And, to see a defensive player impact the game as much as an offensive player is really, it's like, you just don't see the guy do that week after week. And in the biggest moment, and
An
maybe the last
interior
moment.
lineman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like he's middle linebackers have like more opportunity to make, like, or an edge rusher. You think like but to be an interior defensive lineman making plays like that consistently, like play after play, is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It sounds like he's going to retire, and I can understand that, but you miss a guy like that when he's not playing anymore. You just miss him, because he's just it's such an honor to watch a guy like that, play. He's as good as, well, I don't want to say Brady, but he's as good as the top offensive players that we talk about, whether it's Mahomes or he's that good just on the other side of the ball. He can just train wreck a game, as I forget who says that.
Gannon says that.
I didn't want to say his name and get people all mad.
Well, he's a defensive coordinator. We're allowed to say his name. We can't have too many.
No, we're allowed to, but
we can't limit ourselves here.
People have this unhealthy. I don't want to get into it, but anyway, yeah. What else you got, Dave?
Well, I did want to mention, so that everyone's going to look at the fourth down play from Donald. That third down play was more impressive.
Yeah.
He caught a 250-pound running back with his arms and dragged him back.
Yeah.
A 250-pound running back, look, Piran's not great, but he's a big back with momentum going away from you. He catches him and drags him back. That was unreal. Just unreal.
It was. I wasn't in love with the play call, and why is it Mixon in the game at that point? Was he hurt?
I'm guessing they thought they could have their big back fall forward 4 yards, get a first down, and then I didn't have a problem with it. It's just you probably don't run on that side.
Yeah, my problem is the whole notion that your big back gets the yard on third and short or fourth and short, because that's when you want your elusive back with the ball. That's where you want your Boston Scott type of guy. Mixon's just, there's a reason Mixon's their running back, and you don't change up in the biggest moment of the year. You just don't let's give it to the big guy. You need a quick guy on. And Andy Reid was one of the first guys to recognize that, or at least that I saw. He would have Westbrook run those plays because he's elusive. And if the defense is stacked in the middle and you have a big slow guy, more often than not, he's not going to get it. But anyway.
I'll tell you what, though, if any other player on the planet was there instead of Aaron Donald, he does get it.
But Aaron Donald was there, and it was an incredible play because, usually you just see the guy fall forward in that. He pulled him backwards. It was an incredible play. What did you think of the fourth down play call?
It's tough with that line. that line didn't give him a chance all day.
It was almost the exact same situation as the Ertz fourth down, you know? It was like the same yard line. Like, I think the Ertz play was on the Eagles 48, and this was like I think it was on the Rams 49. It was like right in the same spot. Fourth down. You just think about that falls to Ertz, just drop back, get it to him at, a yard and a half past the line of scrimmage. I just thought that whole sequence was kind of botched by Zach Taylor.
Yeah, I didn't mind the third and short as much. I just thought it was a great player making a play, and
Mixon gets it. I'll bet Mixon at least has.
I don't think so.
A chance.
I don't think so. I mean, I just think it was a great player stepping up. Like, what do? You just tip your hat. You don't run it that way. I mean, but
yeah, I mean, we'll never know. I just think if you're going to go down, you go down with your best guy in that situation.
Yeah, it didn't bother me as much. Anything else from the game?
I don't think so. No.
I did want to ask you this. So the last two Super Bowl winners, right, are two teams that felt like they were kind of on the cusp, and they took a big swing for a quarterback. Tampa Bay, obviously.
Say how they won at home at their home stadium, but
no.
Yeah, it's
great. I mean, does it change your outlook? Obviously, we look at everything through an Eagles lens. Does it change your outlook at all? I mean, these two teams are like they were good teams, and they needed upgrades, and they both did it. And back-to-back years brought their teams a Lombardi.
Yeah, it is a little eye-opening, really. I mean, it does make you think there's value to going out and getting a veteran if he's available who you think can, get you over the top. Now, I do think both teams, the Bucs last year and the Rams this year, were closer already than the Eagles are. Although that might change with the 3 first-round picks and second-round pick, but if you use those picks, then maybe you don't get that quarterback. So, it's definitely thought-provoking. It definitely is. It's a trend. I mean, I don't know how many Tom Brady's are out there, but Russell Wilson certainly would give you as a better chance to win than Matt Stafford. Nothing against Matt Stafford, but he's probably a better quarterback. Although I don't know now. They both have one Super Bowl, so who knows? Russell's been a 2. But yeah, I do think it kind of changes the equation a little bit and makes you think. Yeah, if those teams can do it, I think you got to be a little closer than the Eagles are to get a veteran and get over the top. But it's something to think about.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's how do they look at their team right now? They might look at it differently than some of us. They might say, well, we made the playoffs. They might look at it like some of our best players are old. Right? They might go look around and say, like, all right, there's Jason Kelsey, there's Lane Johnson. On defense, there's Fletcher and BG and Slay. And maybe they're thinking, let's go for it. I don't know if that'd be the right way to do it, but if you put yourself in that mindset and you look at the way they might look at it, you can start to convince yourself that taking a shot might be worth it.
Yeah, that's true. And, people talk about the cap hit and all that. I mean, Howie can work around any cap issues. Like, I don't think Howie worries about cap hit. I mean, he stays up night, fretting over Malik Jackson's dead money and that kind of thing. But I don't think it's a roadblock. Certainly, it's not something that would prevent Howie from making that move. I mean, I always thought Howie believes in finding a young quarterback who can get you to 11 wins every year, and from there you have more chances to springboard to a run. But I mean, that was the Donovan thing. We're in the mix every year. We have a shot every year, which they did. They just never won it. which is additional evidence that maybe the other way is the way to go. Yeah, it's definitely that you definitely wonder what Howie's thinking when Matt Stafford goes to the Rams and wins the Super Bowl in his first shot, and it'll be interesting. I think as time has gone by since the season ended, I've gotten more and more, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but more and more aware that there's a possibility, or more that it's a realistic possibility that they will go out and do that. And I don't think what happened yesterday would hurt Howie's chances of doing that.
Anything else from the broadcast? I enjoy the Super Bowl
what do you think?
halftime.
What's your probability, I guess was the word I couldn't think of. I haven't thought of Jim Brown and probability so far. What do you think the probability is? Like, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers, is he going to retire or be with the Packers? I don't think Deshaun Watson is coming here. So there's really not a lot of guys. We're talking about Russell Wilson, most likely.
Yeah, it's Russell. Yeah, I mean, it's in play. I don't think it's a secret, really. It's a secret, but it's not a very well hidden secret. We know that they're infatuated with him. They've always been infatuated with him. And if that's out there, they owe it to themselves to at least see if it's realistic. Now there might be other possibilities. Kyler Murray's unhappy in Arizona. I don't know if that's enough to make you say they should go and do that. Like, what has he really done? He's been good, but he hasn't been, Russell. Yeah. I think it's in play. I think it has to be in play for them.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
it'd be an interesting offseason.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about
if they do acquire Russell Wilson, we will do an emergency pod, right?
Unless my phone's not working.
All right.
Well, they can't do it yet anyway. So
no, they can't do it yet.
Yeah, unless in March, my schedule's pretty free in March, so we'll be good.
All right.
Any commercials or anything catch you?
Any commercials? I don't watch a lot. I don't really pay attention to a lot of them. I like the one, and I think it was for Lay's potato chips, where the guy and his friend or his best man are reminiscing about all their good times when they were younger, and that
Lays were there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he ends up, marrying that thing that they found in the house, whatever, Joan. that was pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not a big commercial guy. I used to watch the game with my dad every year, and he wouldn't watch the game. My dad's not a sports fan. He would space out, and he wouldn't even pay attention during the game. But once the commercials came on, he'd be
That's why it's fun though. You have everyone. It feels like not everyone, but a lot of people watch Super Bowl who aren't huge sports fans, and
yeah,
the halftime was fun. I know you're not a big rap guy, but I thought it was a really.
I missed it.
Where'd you go?
I was doing laundry.
They hit they hit my age demographic. They knew what they were doing. It was a bunch of nostalgia, but it was fun.
Yeah, when they get Hop Along or RFA, or Lucy Dacus at halftime, then I'll pay attention.
Yeah, I don't think that's the audience they're going for.
No, probably not.
Yeah, it was fun.